My research project focuses on the development and use of a new measure of engagement with learning activities for students in higher education. I'm interested in understanding the learning of students who we know experience the world differently and who often experience poorer mental health and lower academic outcomes than other students. For students with autism and other neurodiverse conditions, the key to effective learning lies in the relationship between the learning activities themselves and the characteristics of the individual, how they experience the environment, the activity, and the thinking that makes up their learning. For autistic students, we have a wealth of evidence from neuroscience, from cognitive and developmental psychology, telling us that the differences that define autism have clear implications for experience of learning across a broad range of domains of experience. These include sensory sensitivities, how we actually experience directly the world, the environment that we're in, interaction differences, and differences in ways of thinking and reasoning. We also know that it is at university that many students experience the difficulties that trigger seeking support and a diagnosis of autism. So how can we better understand students' experience of learning? As we know that differences occur across a range of relevant domains, we need a concept that is going to be as broad as well. So we're using the idea of engagement. But we can't assume that everyone experiences engagement in the same way. We can't assume that we can see engagement as it's happening, and we can't use very simple proxies for engagement, such as how much they enjoyed the learning or how much work you produce, because it's much more complex and subtle than that. Many forms of engagement are measured as a trait of the individual, so a characteristic of the individual themselves. But we know that the experience of engagement will differ between different learning contexts as those contexts fit or conflict with the characteristics of the individual. So my project is developing a way to measure engagement across learning activities so that we can better understand what engagement means for autistic university students and be able to compare how that works in different contexts, including remote learning and in-person styles of learning. This year, we've been talking to students. This is something I've done my entire professional life as a teacher, head of sixth form, an undergraduate supervisor, a specialist learning mentor, but this time with a very clear focus on what is it that is happening when learning is working well for that student. We've combined those with the views of experts who work closely with autistic students, and we've developed a measure that includes all of those aspects of learning engagement that are relevant. That includes emotional aspects of engagement, cognitive aspects, ways of thinking, and then social aspects. For example, we know from students that learning has to have a very clear purpose, be connected to existing knowledge, and collaborative working works best when the students know each other well. Next, we'll be using this measure with students from universities across the UK to compare learning engagement between groups of students, between different forms of learning, and really give us that detailed understanding of engagement with learning that will help us to develop our universities and design learning that really is fully and truly inclusive.